Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neal.
I'm Treacherous Trista.
We're joined by BJ Verot, director of The Return, which is coming out just like in a week from now.
Yeah, that's right. August 10th. It's coming out.
Very cool. So give us an idea what The Return is about.
Right. So The Return is about a college student that comes home to deal with his dead father's affairs, and he discovers that this entity from his past has come back. So he decides to set out with his two friends that came with him to discover what's at the root of this presence in his house.
Yeah. Now you said entity, presence. How do you personally describe the thing in the house?
I think
giving away the movie.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I think that's why I use those terms, because there's a few steps that happen along the way that start to reveal a little bit more to the nature of the haunting that's happening in the house. And so I think even on like IMDb, I think Kristen Sawatsky, the actress who played like the ghost in the film, I think we credited her as the entity just to kind of keep a little bit of the secret and the mystique. When we're talking about this film, is this like spoiler free, or are we able to?
It's up to you. It's up to you. We both seen the movie, but it's up to you if you want to give anything away or not.
Yeah, right. So that's generally how we referred to the ghost. But on set we would refer to the ghost as Quantum Mom because she was dabbling in science that she wasn't prepared for. So that's kind of how we've been taking it there.
When you have an entity or a ghost or something in the movie, how do you come up with how it's going to look in the film?
Well, for this particular film, the kind of the nature of the haunting takes place in two different timelines. So as a filmmaker, I wanted to kind of use that as an opportunity to look at the ghost as two separate. Have two different looks, right? For the flashbacks, I wanted a different style and a different aesthetic compared to the contemporary timeline. So because the film kind of starts as a very like classic haunted house, I wanted something that kind of was very like in line with that train of thought. So when you come into the movie, everything seems to be kind of playing out as you expect, even with like the score and the nature of how the ghost looks. But in the flashbacks, because as the mom was split in two different directions, I almost felt like I wanted her ethereal form to go to the future, or rather the contemporary timeline, but her physical presence was more landed in the flashbacks when she was dealing with her daughter and whatnot. So it was just a really fun way to explore two different ways to play with scare tactics in the film.
Yeah. Who did the effects in the movie?
The visual effects was done by Andrew DeGrees, and the special effects makeup was done by Emerson Ziffel. And he was awesome. He came up with the skin suit, and he also came up with the all black suit, and they were kind of like onesies that you could like zip up from the back that we could kind of hide and color out and whatnot. And he's great. He's worked on like the Wolf Cop films and Krampus and all kinds of stuff. So he was a really good get, and he's a good guy too.
Yeah, we had the director of Wolf Cop on during our
Lowell Dean. Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah. Did you now had you worked with him previously? The people who did the effects?
Yeah, both guys. Andrew has helped on a couple of shorts that I had done previously, and Emerson actually, I had done a short film. It was like a micro short, 2 minutes, but really heavy on the makeup. We were kind of drawing inspiration from like some Jacob's Ladder type stuff, and I sent him some reference images, and he lived at the time. He lived in Regina, Saskatchewan. I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So in Canada, we're kind of like dead center, and he's just a little bit west. It's a 5-hour drive. And I mean, again, like I said, he's a great guy. He drove the 5 hours to Winnipeg, slept in my basement, did all the makeup, and then he went home the next day. Like, I just can't believe how amazing this guy is. But it was really cool. So yeah, I've worked with him on After the Rain, which was like a pretty, like I said, special effects makeup heavy project.
Is that online? Your shorts?
That one isn't available online. I have done another short that's available on Dust. It's called Echoes in the Ice, and it's kind of like a Lovecraftian Arctic sci-fi horror about these four guys that find an abandoned research facility, and at the bottom level they find this old well that starts to affect them all. So that one's gotten some good love, and people keep asking me if I'm going to consider doing or adapting it to a feature, which I'm giving more and more thought to as time goes on, because so many people have asked about it. So that might be coming down the pipe, I think, in the development side of things.
Yeah. And for
Yeah.
people who don't know your background, you did acting and a lot of stunts, and then you did the short. So was making your own movie something you always wanted to do? How did that come about?
Yeah, I guess as far as like the film industry goes, for me, I have like two streams. I have like my filmmaker side. I tend to produce a lot of my own projects. As the scope and scale of the projects are getting bigger, it seems to be like there's going to be a lot more people coming on board to help kind of grow out that venture. So I writing, directing, and as a necessary evil, producing. But then I also do stunts on the union side of things for film and television. And between those two, I count myself a pretty lucky guy. It's super fun. Get to do all kinds of weird stuff, and then on the side, like in my free time, and even more so because I really am pursuing the directing side of things. I'm just writing, cooking up ideas, and just trying to get things off the ground for when I'm able to. COVID kind of put a damper on that, of course.
Yeah,
so
of course.
Kind of pump the brakes, but things are really picking up again, and it should be a fun 2022.
Yeah. So what did you seek out to do? Did you seek out like I want to make movies, or did you seek out to be a stuntman, or did one come about because of the other?
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. It was a bit of a domino effect. I was going to university for my film degree. I want to be a director, writer. I want to tell stories and hopefully have people as entertained as I was when I was, growing up and watching films. And but when I was in university, one of the primary stunt coordinators here in my province was running a stage combat course, and I knew that. So I worked really hard in the class and applied myself. And I have a background in judo and wrestling, and I can do backflips and stuff. So I have like a good skill set, I think, for a stunt kind of background. But I literally, I guess you could say, I went to school for it. I took that course, and then slowly one stunt call became another one. And then as things really got busy, I was kind of pulled into the kind of the main team. And it's been pretty amazing for the last 5 years, particularly. It's really busy here.
Trista, do you have a question?
I'd love to know what some of your favorite horror films are.
Oh, good question. I love The Thing is, I don't know. I'm sure you get this answer a lot, but The Thing, I think, is an amazing film. The 14-year-old in me really loves Aliens, and I think the slightly older version of me likes Alien. Predator. I was born in the 80s.
That wholeheartely. When I was a kid, but as an adult, I realized like older people like, oh yeah, Alien is a better movie. But.
Yeah, man, they're amazing. And I was born in the 80s, so like I feel like part of me was kind of coming up with that like decadent 80s era of just filmmaking. Like, you had like RoboCop, Total Recall, Predator, like things that just I feel like I don't know if they hit today just due to the nature of how the business is, but at that time, I loved it, still do. So I got a soft spot in my heart for a lot of 80s projects.
When you said The Thing, I actually did think of the one short you were talking about. I thought it seemed a little thing-like with the. A
lot of people have made that comparison. I didn't go out kind of trying to homage it to The Thing or anything, but it's just it's Arctic. Well, Antarctic for The Thing. So I actually said that this was like my Arctic polar response. So while they're dealing with that down south, I'm doing some fun stuff up on the northern pole, and so that that film as it was evolving and stuff, it really is just the tip of the iceberg. You could almost look at it as like a prologue to a greater story, which is good because it's just enough to keep people excited. It has a fun little story, and then but I have so much more that I can unpack, and there's some crazy stuff that I have in store if and when I get to doing that as a feature.
Yeah. And
then to go back to Trista's question for favorite horror films, I think if we're talking maybe like a bit more contemporary, just recently, like I have to say, like Midsummer has been just amazing. Like, oh, so good. Just terror in broad daylight, and you're just trapped out in the wide open. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it's weird because some people, that's a negative to them. They said it's too bright and it looks nice, but I don't know why that doesn't, Yeah,
it's kind of like casting against type, right? Yeah. But I just think it works for that one because you have all of these like safety mechanisms in place, and there's just no escape, and things are getting worse, and you can't get the answers. Like, just I don't know. It's just a series of stacking situations that just make it worse and worse for everybody who's still alive, I guess, depending on where you are in the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. This Thursday we're doing our best of the decade show, and that may be on some of our lists. So.
Yeah. So which one do you prefer? I'm just curious on the Ari Aster front. Do you like Hereditary more, or do you like Midsummer more?
I like Midsummer better, but I don't know.
Yeah, me too. I like Hereditary as well, but I think Midsummer just checks more boxes for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trista, which I don't know which one Trista likes better.
I love them both. In fact, I've rewatched both of them this week, and I know that Midsummer is derivative of Wicker Man, but I prefer it to Wicker Man personally. And
I can't say that, but
Ari Aster just tickles my funny bone in a way that nobody else does. Like, I laugh out loud so much during his films.
Oh man, he does have a very big,
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Truly, my roommate is not thrilled about it, but I don't know why.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because you're a little out there, probably. But no.
Yeah, apparently.
Real quick, before we go back to your movie, The Return.
Yeah.
Is about the thing, because it was funny because you said the 14-year-old and you likes aliens, and then as you're older you like Alien. I always think that's what's so good about the thing is when you can watch as a kid and just love it for all the monsters, and then when you're older you can really appreciate how well it's made and the acting, and so it's really the best of both worlds, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. It's pretty timeless when you look at it. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe the kid version really enjoys the monster effects, but there's so much what's the word I'm looking for? When everyone is, distrustful of each other. Yeah, exactly.
Paranoia.
I mean, the paranoia is just a whole other level of chaos, and I just love that.
Yeah, the board. I had the board game here, and you really feel. I always bring this up. You really feel paranoid playing the game because
that's awesome.
Some of the players might be the thing, so you don't know who's who, and if you are the thing, you have to try to kill everyone else. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I recommend it. They should pay me, I guess, or pay the show. But
yeah, right. Yeah, I should try. I should give that a go. That sounds really fun.
Yeah. So was this your first feature, The Return? Yeah,
it was the first feature. I'm Canadian, so I got some financing through Telefilm, and for my first feature, and I guess it was pretty ambitious. It's not a huge budget, of course, but there's a ton of VFX in it, a little bit of stunts. We managed to squeeze a 16-day shoot out of it, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. So, like I said, I'm trying to turn my attentions to just going bigger and bolder, and this film in particular is kind of a little bit more on the PG-13 front, but I feel like moving forward, a lot of what resonates with me as a filmmaker moving forward will probably be a little bit more mature on the content, maybe a little more violent kind of stuff. So I feel like there's a lot of potential for growth and exploration that I'm looking forward to.
Was that an actor decision to make a PG-13 movie, or did it come out?
Not really. No, it was just I feel like that was just the story that needed to be told. I think if we were going to be adding more, it would be just for the sake of adding in set pieces that would kind of detract from the overall kind of explorative story that, I almost feel like as a viewer, you're along for the ride with Richard and Sarah and Echo as he's figuring out, like, who is this thing? He's starting to unpack his memories. And I think if we were trying to find little things to feed in there to kind of ramp it up, I think it would detract from the overall kind of arc of what they were going through.
Richard has a really unique look that as soon as you see him, I think you're drawn to him. Did you?
Yeah.
How did he come about in casting?
Okay, so actually he was here in Winnipeg a few years prior to my feature. He was on this film called, at the time it was called Break My Heart 1,000 Times with Bella Thorne, which is now called I See You, or I Still See You, I believe. And I was his stunt double actually on that film. So we spoke very briefly. We didn't spend a lot of time together, but in the time that we did, he was a really nice guy. He was really friendly and approachable, and it was great. So fast forward, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, my feature's coming out. We put out the casting call, and the casting director for my film, Carmen Kotek, she goes, "Well, what do you think about Richard Harmon?" And I was like, "Oh, he'd be great. I feel like he's got a good look and a good kind of presence for the type of character that we want." And I said, I had the benefit of just very briefly meeting him, and he was a great guy. So if he's interested, I'd be really happy to offer that to him. And so, we arranged a phone call and we talked about the film, and from there he was the first person that signed on. So we actually had our star signed before we cast the rest of the film, and everything else kind of fell into place. So that it was a really, really nice, smooth way to kind of ease into the film.
Yeah. Now you did the shorts, before doing the feature. How does that prepare you to do a feature? And what are some of the things that you didn't foresee?
Yeah. Well, like I've probably since about 2015, I think I've made about 7 or 8 shorts. And one thing that I always try to set out to do is, I always want to tell something different. So, that's part of the reason I haven't done anything with Echoes in the Ice yet, just because I like variety and keeping things fresh and fun for me too. And but every time I make a film, I always try to add new tools to my tool chest. So like, for example, on After the Rain, I brought Emerson Ziffel to town because I really wanted to focus on makeup special effects. When I did Echoes in the Ice, I really wanted like a heavy VFX film. So I could, we could work with a lot of green screens, comps, overlays, all that kind of stuff. For a different project called Patterns, I wanted to play with like a seamless wonder. So we started on a 30-foot crane and we crane down through the front window and we go across the front of the house through the office window, and we did a transition into a Steadicam and keep the shot going, because I want to be able to incorporate all of these things if and when the challenge presents itself on a larger project. And as it turns out, there's a lot of camera movement in the return, a lot of makeup special effects, a lot of VFX. So everything that I was kind of doing in the lead up, I was trying to basically make sure I was in like good gym shape, filmically speaking, to kind of attack the feature with the skills that I had been developing in the lead up to that.
Yeah. Trista, you have another question?
I'm always interested in what scares horror creators. So do you have any fears or phobias you're comfortable sharing with us?
Oh, geez. I don't really have anything like overt, I guess, on the phobia front. I guess a fear of failure, but that's more of like a psychological one. I don't know. I guess we'll say fear of failure. There's nothing really like, pardon me?
Oh, that's a big one. That counts.
I think it's good though. I think that's a driving force for me. It keeps me motivated and I keep moving forward. But as far as like, fear of snakes or spiders or heights, nothing quite so overt as that. Maybe when I come across it in my day to day, I'll be sure to let you know when I found out the hard way that I'm terrified of.
By the way, I found out I'm afraid.
Yeah, it turns out chinchillas are terrifying. So.
The fear of failure, though, you said that keeps you motivated to keep going forward, but I would think that could also have the opposite effect. It would stop you from trying certain things, as you would be afraid of it wouldn't work out.
That's an interesting like kind of facet to cover on that. And yes, I think there are people that like, for example, like a lot of people will write a script and they're so scared that people will judge it and not like it that they can't take that next step. I'm a lot more willing to put myself out there to succeed or fail, as opposed to just opting to not even try, because then you're guaranteeing your own demise. So you kind of have to take that step. When you're making a movie anyway, like for example, The Return or any one of the shorts that I've done, people could love it or hate it. And once it's out there, there's nothing I can do about it, right? But at least I made the film and I know there's stuff in there that I can glean and I can pull from and build off of and keep moving forward. So, for as much as you may worry that people might not like your project or you might not get financed or, funding might fall through, you just got to keep plugging away. Because if you choose to stop, then you're going to just wither anyway. So
that's a different way of looking at it. I was thinking there's more actual failures, not even putting it out there, as opposed to fear of someone not liking it.
Yeah.
I want to mention Adam Brooks is in the movie, who I'm a big fan of. It's not a huge role, but I'm a big Astron 6 fan, and I was very happy to see Adam Brooks pop up.
Yeah. The film was it's a very tight cast, but I was like, I could probably get Adam to play Max, the lawyer. So, he's also from Winnipeg, where I'm from. So we see each other from time to time, so he came on board, and it was a pretty small part. But down the road, I'd love to get him into something a little meatier and have a little more fun, because obviously we all know what he's capable of on a grander scale, in all the crazy stuff that he's been involved with. Yeah. So that's the hope. I'd love to get Adam back on something with a bit more meat on the bone.
Yeah, very dry sense of humor. I'm a big
yeah.
Do you have any injuries from any of the stunts?
On The Return, no. In the real world, nothing crazy. Like, when you fall down anywhere from 5 to 25 times a day, eventually you're going to catch your elbow, or you're going to land on your hip weird or something like that. So you'll have a lot of bumps and bruises or scrapes, but nothing too crazy. For as dangerous as things appear on set and on screen, there's a especially again, I'm very lucky. The team that I work with, Skiing Stunts, like they have a very safe approach, and a lot of it is like this really nice marriage between stunt and VFX. So, you know, sometimes always what you see on screen isn't exactly what's happening on set, which is a good thing because it allows us to do it 4, 5, 6 times instead of once, and then you walk with a limp for a week. So I can't really think of anything where I was like too injured. However, about a month and a half ago, I guess I was on one shoot, and I get like shoved over this barrel, and just randomly my finger just got twerked. So I still can't make a fist. So I guess if you're talking injuries, maybe this one like a month and a half ago has been bugging me, but I'm a righty, so everything good.
Oh, okay. I was just saying, if anyone went to get in a fist fight, now's the time to do so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was the best time, because otherwise you're going down. But honestly, like it's been pretty good. You know, I got a pretty big nose. Haven't been cracked in that too often. So yeah, it's been working out.
Well, that's good. That's good. I saw that one award at a Lovecraft festival.
Yeah, I was really happy with that because I'm a pretty big fan of H.P. Lovecraft and his works. And so when I submitted to that festival, I sent in a cover letter. I'd already screened there with Echoes in the Ice because that kind of draws from Lovecraftian elements as well. But in my cover letter, I just said, like, I know this isn't like a very typical Lovecraftian story, but I said it definitely draws on a lot of elements of cosmic horror. There's like science that are opening, you know, dimensions to things and pulling out, you know, these specters and whatnot until things are eventually revealed in the third act. And yeah, luckily it went to the fest and it won the best feature. And I'm just happy with that because my goal is, I mean, I'm a fan of H.P. Lovecraft, and if I can kind of keep drawing inspiration from kind of his previous works, that's great. That means I'm making films for people who are fans of what I like as well. So I can hopefully, you know, continue to connect with people that like what I like. And I guess on that note too, I mean, I guess if I was offered something, sure, I would be happy to jump into one of his like original works. But anything that I do, I think I would like to, like I had mentioned, draw inspiration from his work while keeping it uniquely my own, so that I'm putting my own kind of essence into the project as well. So that's something that kind of motivates me on that front too, is kind of finding that line that, you know, satisfies the Lovecraftian component, but like keeping it unique to the stories I like to tell. Yeah.
So how did it, besides that particular festival, how did it do at other festivals? And what was that like? Were you in attendance for any of them?
No, I was in my cold basement doing a bunch of Zoom calls for the festivals, but it did pretty well. It went to like Film Quest and Other Worlds Austin. It screened in at H.P. Lovecraft, of course. Pardon me. Richard Harmon won the Best Actor at the New York City Horror Film Festival, and a bunch of other ones. Salem Horror Fest, which I would have loved to have gone to as well. So yeah, it did really well.
I'm in Massachusetts, but I always want to go to that. But
so you haven't been yet?
No.
Oh, maybe one day in the future, if I get another project out, we'll get to meet in person. I'd like to go. I think it would be a really good time. Mm-hmm. But I did a great run on the genre festival circuit, and then you know, a bunch of Zoom calls here. Otherwise, I would have probably been traveling around having a great time in 2020. But I think the world had other plans. So.
Yeah. That's how I discovered Zoom. I didn't even know Zoom was around.
Same. Yeah.
I'm sure Zoom is. I don't want to say that they're happy, but they've benefited over the last.
Yeah, definitely.
Trista, do you have another question?
You co-wrote the script for The Return, so can you talk a little bit more about what inspired the story?
Yeah, sure. Ken Jansen's kind of came up with the core concept for the film. So, like, I didn't come on board and kind of try to change too much of how it kind of naturally evolved from a horror film to a sci-fi. That was always an organic kind of shift in the third act to go from a more conventional haunting to kind of a full-on sci-fi. But as a director, that was something that I thought was like really fun because you can really lean into some of the tropes that you come to expect. And then what I tried to do was, in the hypnosis scene when she unlocks his memories, I wanted to take kind of some of the score that we had developed and then starting to incorporate more sci-fi elements as he's getting closer to the answers, so that when we shifted, you get this like subconscious progression into kind of where it was going until it takes that hard left. So on the writing side, to go back to that, one thing that I think I did well was the script was a little bit bigger initially. It was about 120 pages, and we really whittled it down to about 90, and we really distilled it down to its core components. And I think it was good because, again, the budget wasn't massive, and it just helped keep things really lean. And I don't think it suffered much. Like, it was just like we were just trimming things that I felt should go anyways, just to keep it a really tight story, keep the viewer on the tracks for the journey, and then, have it wrap up relatively clean.
I don't know if there's something you want to talk about, but when you mentioned, it's more sci-fi part of the movie, is the original poster I noticed is more science fiction, and then the newer posters are they really push the horror elements, I think. Yeah.
Well, we created the so that purple one where it's like the two faces of Richard screaming. We created that one with our company, and I think it's a pretty great poster. I'm pretty happy with it. Andrew, who did the VFX, did the poster. He did a great job, and I really liked that poster because it's two faces kind of overlaid, and it kind of touches on it very subtly touches on the fact that his mom was actually like split in two directions. And if he didn't correct the formula properly, I mean, he could suffer that same fate. So, it had some like very low key kind of symbolism going on. And then, the new key art came out through our distributor, and they're leaning more into the horror element. So I'm guessing that they're gonna cater it more to the horror audience. I'm not exactly sure. I'll let you know when we follow up down the road one day.
It's something I notice a lot from the especially movies I'll follow from the festivals to when they get released. And sometimes though I do think the new one is good too, but sometimes I'll see like a hand painted poster, and then it will be a very a basic poster, and it's always kind of sad to me. But I actually think both posters are good. But
they definitely. Yeah, and you know what? I think, again, because of the fact that the film really does hinge in two different directions, it's kind of cool to have just two different looks at the same film. You got your like sci-fi one, you have your horror one, and they both kind of tell a different story, but it's all kind of connected, which is cool.
Yeah.
But I think eventually we're gonna try to sell our poster on our website, because a lot of people have been messaging us about it. A lot of fans of Richard and fans who have seen the film so far want a poster, which is cool. So we're going to try to get that up and running to kind of like time out pretty close to the release of the project.
Yeah. Something else I wanted to bring up, because I think it's overlooked sometimes, is the sound, and not just the score, but when the ghost is around, there's some really, I think, scary noise, and I think that really adds to the movie.
Yeah, I had a sound designer named Stephen Webb come on, and his first pass, his first primary focus was all ghost related stuff. So we had kind of like layered in voices and like a lot of like weird breathing, and we had like synth sounds that had been kind of like broken down and kind of layered in where necessary. And I think it turned out pretty well. I actually there was a scene from The Thing actually that I sent as reference to. I'm trying to remember which one. It might have been when the dog is like hatching open and killing everything, and it makes this scream that I was like, if we can kind of like tie into something that hit you internally from this sound, that would be great. So he kind of played with that as well. So there's a lot of layers to that sound design on the ghost. So that's cool. I'm glad you liked that part.
Yeah, definitely. And just to kind of a side note, I like that you would say inspired by things, because people always talk about, they remake everything so much, but instead of remaking things, I do think almost everything we've seen has been inspired by something else, and that you can still make something completely original and just be inspired, by something you watched, before.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Trista, do you have another question?
I'm wondering if you had an imaginary friend as a kid.
I didn't. Maybe Ken did. Maybe that's where a lot of this came from. But it's funny though. I wonder, actually, while we were making the movie, we were talking about that, and I'm genuinely curious, like how prevalent were people are children who have imaginary friends? Because I didn't have one, but I wonder what it would be like to actually have one, and how common is that? Did you have an imaginary friend when you were a kid?
No, I'm also curious. What about you, Neal?
I did not, but my brother, who is our other co-host, is not here today, did have an imaginary friend. His name is Troy, and his imaginary friend was Yort, which is Troy spelled backwards. So
that's great. See, when I was a kid, I played a lot with action figures. So I think I pooled a lot of my my visual creative energy into I guess in hindsight, early filmmaking techniques. I was just storyboarding with action figures when I was a kid, maybe. So that's where all that juice went.
Yeah, I did too all the time. But on a side note, near the beginning when they see all the dolls, I'm not really freaked out by a lot in horror movies, but toys and dolls kind of freak me out. And I think it's because I had a lot of action figures as a kid. And
that's cool. Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, and again, that was very inspired by, just like I said, I really wanted it to kind of start as a classic haunting, and it seemed like a very easy to identify kind of, I don't know if trope is the right word, but you see that room and you go, oh shit, that's kind of creepy. And we kind of played into it and had some fun, and it was kind of a bit of a redirect because the thing was actually coming out of the event. But yeah, we just tried to play on that so that there just was a bit more of an arc, like when we got to that third act sci-fi shift.
Mm-hmm. So The Return comes out August 10th. Are you working on anything currently?
Yeah, I got a new script that I'm working on right now, and it's a bit of it's got a couple twists and turns, so I can't get too deep into it. But it's an action thriller about a family at their cabin, and these intruders show up, and then things get real serious. So it should be pretty fun. I'm really excited for this one.
Very cool. And where can people follow The Return or yourself to see what you're up to?
You can. I'm probably easier to find just because it's my name, BJ Verot, and I'm primarily on Instagram and Twitter. That's probably where I'm easiest to get to. And I think on both of my bio handles, I think you can get to The Return right out of my my profile.
Yeah, and I'm going to edit the beginning so I pronounce your name correctly.
Oh. Sure, sounds good. Well, thanks a lot for having me. I really appreciate it. It was really nice to meet you too. And, I hope we get a chance to catch up again in the future on another project.
Very good. All right.
Yeah, I love that. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Take care. Stay warm up in Canada.
Yeah, it's hot right now, but the winter's coming. So,
yeah. All right. Very good. Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Cool. See you later.